Hey, everybody. Yes, welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer. Chris, how's it going today?
Jason, that smile, that pop just was beautiful. Just
Thanks.
instant, like the curtain comes back and Jason's just all smiles and buttery and happy. I love it. What a professional. Nobody would know that moments ago you were crying and
Oh,
just
yeah.
in the depths of sadness. But boy,
No, if I'm sad about anything, it's that I had to be away from you for a full week. You look 1 week older, but other than that, how's it going,
oh,
Chris? You look good.
okay.
No, you look good.
I'm good. Yeah,
Look
Jason,
like looks like you got a haircut. You get a haircut?
I did, yeah.
Good.
My favorite hairstylist, who I am currently in a relationship with, she does great.
Yeah.
My
Good.
wife,
Yeah. She did a good job. She did the
yeah, and
sides, left the top
she's
a
a
little long.
nurse. Her professional career is a nurse, registered nurse, RN. She just picked up cutting hair and is like, "Hey, I can do a better job than her," and she just did it, and she's right.
Well, we're all better off for it. So,
Yeah.
Chris, good to see you. We're going to do a Q&A episode. I love these
Hmm.
episodes. Everyone loves them. If you have questions about Google Ads or really anything, paidsearchpodcast.com, go to the Ask Us a Question page, the contact page, and send it in, and we'll gather these and put them together for a Q&A show. YouTube channel is continuing to grow, so we appreciate you all being there. And then uh, we have our archive. The first 100 episodes is available on paidsearchpodcast.com. Chris, other than that, anything new with you? Anything new with Google Ads or what's going on?
Well, I feel Jason. I really left the ball. I don't know what the saying is. I dropped the ball. Yeah, there we go. I dropped the ball because
Oh,
I talked about my new truck, and possibly getting a new truck, and I never gave any resolution to that story. And I've gotten people emailing me and asking like,
oh yeah,
"What'd you do? What'd you do with the truck?" So I thought I would share. Jason, as you know, I am a Ram man, not Dodge Ram. I've discovered Dodge Ram is it's no longer a Dodge Ram. It's just Ram. So no
yeah,
longer a Ford man. I happily drive a a Ram truck that has under 100,000 miles. So my family is safe again, Jason.
good.
Um, I know you're always concerned about that. So yeah,
Well, good. Yeah, what year is it?
it is a 2020,
Nice.
the
Good for
best
you, Chris.
best year ever. I mean, I wanted something to remember
Yeah,
2020 because I want to memorialize that great year. Everybody's looking forward to that year. When it passed, when it got here, it was a great year. So I just
yeah.
forever I have that truck to remember that great year.
Good, good. Well, glad you gave us resolution on that, and
Yes, a lot of people
hope
wanted
you're
that.
enjoying your RAM.
Yes, I am.
So, Chris, why don't you tell us about Optio, and then we'll get into the first question, which is about smart bidding, responsive search ads, and broad match, the golden triangle.
Yes. Well, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, optio.com/PSP. That is a special URL that we only share here for you to get an exclusive deal for double the free time on this amazing tool. This amazing tool is designed to monitor and diagnose performance issues in your Google Ads campaigns. It comes with all the assistance and guidance that you need to make a clean decision about should you take path A or B. It's an amazing system in that it doesn't just say we think that if you click this, things will get better. No, it assumes that you are a smart, well-seasoned thinker in life, right? You're an adult. You can draw your own conclusion. And this tool gives you English written language, not just some kind of marketing speak that you can't really understand. It's just plain, simple English about here's what we see, here's the facts, the graphs, the numbers about what we see, and we think you should do this. Do you agree? Yes or no? and then you bam, 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 go down this list on all of your accounts and you can improve. It will save you time. It will save you money because it's super affordable. And the 8-week, 2-month free trial that you get when you go to Opteo, opteo.com/PSP.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So let's start off here with Anthony's question. Anthony is from Nashville. I was actually in Nashville last month for a wedding, and we had some hot chicken and did this bicycle ride thing, like a bicycle bar thing. It was pretty funny. But yeah, great city. It's on the come up there. But Anthony from Nashville writes in, and his question is about smart bidding and responsive search ads and broad match keywords. And so Anthony says, "Hey, Jason and Chris, longtime listener and big fan of the show, holding out, traveling to Sweden until the majority of listeners there only have positive things to say." And we get some reviews from Sweden sometimes, and they're less than ideal, I would say. And but one thing to compliment the Swedish people, they're very honest. I don't even think they can lie at all. They're very honest, and if they think your show is mediocre, but just good enough to listen to and review, they will let you know. Anthony continues here. Any experience, tip, or tricks you can share regarding Google Ads golden triangle recommendation of responsive search ads plus broad match keywords plus smart bidding? I'm seeing mixed results, but still waiting on lead quality feedback. Just curious if you have any clients running this, and what are your thoughts? So first question there, Chris, do you do broad keywords, smart bidding, and you got to do responsive search ads these days. But basically broad match keywords plus smart bidding. How big a role does that play in your Google Ads life?
A very minor role for me.
Wow.
If I do it, it is a specific strategy. It is never my main move, my mainstay on Google Ads. It's always not always, but 95% of the time it's a side strategy. I'm very rarely happy with broad keywords, smart bidding, because most of the time unless it's a very specific situation, I have no control over the account. I can't control exactly what the performance is. And it's very rarely something that I pursue as a main campaign.
Yeah, I would say I'm more and more adding it every week to accounts. And we have some specific situation. It's always a specific situation that comes up with like broad match keywords. Sometimes you get in the spot where it's like there's not enough volume with the exact and phrase match keywords, and it's a particular industry, and you want to get some more volume. But more often these days, what's happening is I'm running amazing campaigns, exact match and phrase match, and we're getting amazing leads. And then the clients want more leads. And we look at our search campaign data. We look at the search impression share. We look at the position data. Sometimes there's not much more you can do without paying a higher cost per lead. And so to get more leads, I mean, it's just the truth. One way to get more leads is broad match keywords. It can work out pretty good if your goal is to get more leads. The question is, what is the quality of those leads going to be? And that's kind of the tricky part that comes with experience, knowing the right kind of broad keywords to target, knowing what to bid for those broad match keyword conversions. And maybe you bid less because maybe on average they're lower quality. Maybe they're not, but kind of knowing that and being able to judge that. And then I would say one just like management tip that I've come across, running broad keywords with target CPA bidding, Chris, it's a totally different like experience than phrase and exact match keywords. I run it, and then sometimes clients ask about like, well, why do we have a bad click-through rate, or why are we showing up on this like borderline search term? And basically, you just have to like totally divorce yourself from the traditional statistics on Google Ads, like high click-through rate, like really, really high quality search terms, because with broad match keywords, we don't really know why we're showing on those search terms. And we don't know why we're showing up high or low, because it combines what we can see in Google Ads, the keyword, the bid, and all that kind of stuff. But when you run broad match and when you run target CPA, it also factors in the person doing the search. And that's not something we have access to on the management side. So is that kind of connecting with you, Chris? Do you kind of run into those experiences when you are running broad match and target CPA and clients ask about a bad click-through rate, or they ask why you didn't block that search term? And
Yeah.
how do you deal with those situations?
Yeah. So first, I, I do it. I perhaps you do it more often than me, but we definitely do agree that it's a secondary strategy, and it sounds like that's what you're basically laying out. That this, for lack of a better term, I never called it this, but the golden triangle of these three things together. It's not something that you do as a primary source. It is always a scaling factor. It's a boost factor. It's an add-on to your primary campaign. Correct?
No, every morning I go out and I get my mail and I get weapons pointed at me and they tell me
Yep.
I need to do more
Uh-huh.
broad match keywords. So
I
I'm
knew
doing
it.
more of them
Yeah.
to not to basically be able to go out and get my mail the following day. And so I have been influenced to do more and more broad match keywords. And I am doing this more and more, not as the primary strategy, but in some cases the co-primary strategy. Basically my life as a Google Ads manager these days, Chris, is I'm living secret lives, two separate lives, and I have two separate families inside the same accounts in a lot of cases, because I am doing old school phrase and exact perfect search terms, and that works great. But I have seen corners being turned in the last 6 months with broad match keywords and with automated bidding. And when I have the correct conversion data in place, and when I'm able to judge the quality of those conversions, I am more open these days to broad match keywords and target CPA bidding, because I have seen better performance from it. But I'm not going to say that that doesn't take experience, or there's not a ton of nuance to that, like the kinds of keywords I target, the kinds of conversions I track for. But I don't know. It just feels like this is kind of the ocean that we're swimming in more and more these days, and I've been doing it more and more.
Hmm.
And part of that is people want more leads, and so it's a great way to get them more leads.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically I've added it on as a co-strategy basically, and
We-
I've seen the corner being turned, is just knowing how to kind of approach it.
are we growing more apart?
It depends if you want to come with me, Chris. I mean, maybe one day you'll start going out and getting your mail, and then being having to deal with what I deal with, and you'll join me. But Chris, honestly, in all seriousness, I've kind of seen the light, if you will, and it's hard to go back on that kind of volume and the ability to get lower cost per conversions. But it's all about nuance, Chris. It's all about, again, the kinds of conversions you track, the quality of those conversions, and you have to be very, very disciplined in not letting the data that you see in the account overwhelm your um, kind of feelings toward broad match and take you and pull you away from phrase and exact and manual bids. Because with performance max, with broad match keywords, a lot of times nominally what I've experienced, you'll be getting really, really good results, lower cost per conversion, more conversions, but maybe they're not as good conversion quality. And so you have to kind of weigh that. And in the past month, I've gone too far in the direction of broad match and performance max. And I looked at some accounts and talked with some clients and did some consulting. And I actually had to be pulled back in the direction of phrase and exact and manual. And so that's why now I'm approaching it as just basically separate things inside of this one account called Google Ads.
Hmm.
And as I've separated it, that's when I felt like I've been able to best handle and manage them together, but by just keeping them separate. Because, and I guess maybe that's my main point to answer the question. Yes, this stuff can work, but to me, I'm best able to do it when I look at it as basically a separate form of marketing. Because Chris, broad match keywords, they can take into account the searches that the person did recently. They probably take into account the websites that the person visits. How can you account for that with our traditional skill set of like search terms and negative keywords? It's like it's a totally different kind of skill set and form of marketing, if you will.
Hmm. Well, we're not entirely sure that exact and phrase don't do
And
that as well.
they probably do. But the whole thing is like with search terms, it's like with phrase and exact, basically the search terms that you're going to show up on are what you're wanting, and if they're not,
Right.
you probably block them. With broad, if you go into that mindset, the search terms report of a broad keyword campaign, and you say, I'm going to block bad searches, you're not going to have any search terms potentially that you show up on anymore, because you're going to see everything in there. You're going to be like, no, this is not exactly what I want to show up on. This is not exactly what I want to show
Yeah.
up on. So if you take that leap of faith and go, well, maybe I want to show up on this, maybe I don't, but I want conversions, I want leads, and let's see the quality of those leads. But yeah, and one final thing I'll say here, Chris, and I think you've probably seen this. When you do responsive search ads and you do broad match keywords and you do smart bidding, it kind of unlocks a lot of volume. And the question is that volume good or not? That's a different conversation and different things you have to judge. But like, if you're needing more volume, Google tells us to do that. And I have seen it kind of unlock different industries.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's a very interesting time in Google Ads these days, Chris.
Yeah.
And I will say you can get too far away from search terms and manual and exact. And once you do that, it's nice to come back to it and you realize, oh, it is nice to just show up on the right things and get good quality leads. So I'm seeing the benefits of both.
Okay, well, let's take a jump over from Nashville to Minnesota, and we're going to hear a question from Brett.
Have you ever been to Minnesota, Chris? St. Paul, Minnesota?
No, absolutely not. Nope.
We did a museum tour there. We went to I think it's called the Transportation Museum of Minnesota, and then we went to the History Museum of Minnesota, and they were both in St. Paul. So we made a weekend out of it. It's a cool little city. Yeah.
Transportation Museum.
Yeah.
Does it have like trains
and cars and yeah, that kind of thing. It was a fun time. I'll send you some pictures later.
That does. I would absolutely. Yeah. Hey guys, I've been listening to your podcast on the bus ride to work for a few years, and I'm looking for some general advice in a Google search campaign. I run Google search ads for a luxury apartment developer. I have a good campaign build, and I have a website, and I have website conversions for forms and phone call tracking. Okay, Brett, sounding good so far. I've been looking through these campaigns and noticed that most of the search terms are for competitor apartment names. Generally, I want to show up for people searching for things like 2-bedroom apartment in X city or best luxury apartments. There have been some conversions on the competitor apartments, but not much. So, the question: would you recommend going through search terms and making competitor apartment names a negative keyword? He says, I'm not specifically targeting any competitors, but they are hitting on the general non-brand keywords regularly. And he's using phrase match. Thank you, and I appreciate the show. Good question, Brett. Competitor stuff is always a question that we get. Jason, what are your thoughts on this one?
So first thought is, competitor should always be in its own ad group at a minimum, or its own campaign. I put it in its own campaign so you can control the budget. But the question, should you go through the search terms and add competitor apartment names as negative keywords? I would say you have to listen to the full answer here, everyone listening. But yes, you should add the competitors as negatives to the non-competitor ad group or campaigns. So if you're targeting luxury apartments in St. Paul, or 2-bedroom apartments by the Transportation Museum, if you're targeting those keywords and you're showing up on competitor apartment names, add the competitors as negative keywords. But that leads to a further question. Should you target competitor apartment buildings, or should you target competitors in general? We can open up the conversation. So, Chris, first of all, do you agree that if you're running non-competitor keywords and you're showing up on competitor search terms, that you should start adding competitors as negatives to those non-competitor ad groups, non-competitor campaigns?
Yes, 100%. Absolutely.
Keep them separate. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, the second question, in general, should you run competitor keywords?
Sure. I mean, every strategy is worth testing. I mean, I'm not really a fan of it. I mean, most of the time, whenever companies come to me and say, "Hey, can we also launch a competitor campaign strategy?" I think, okay, but first, are you going to take budget away from my primary campaign to do that? Or are you going to add additional budget for me to use? And they're like, "Oh no, we don't have any additional budget. We're just wondering if you could test that as well." And I'm like, I'm barely scraping by on the budget you've given me.
Yeah.
And no way I'm taking from the primary, possibly losing the value that I have there and putting it, taking a third of it, a fourth of it, whatever, and putting it into competitors. No, I won't do it. So the only way that I'd be behind it is if I have a well-funded account that has plenty of budget, and we're looking on scaling things, taking things further, spending more volume, stuff like that. But for any account that's underfunded, struggling, limited budget, stuff like that, no, don't want to do it. Not an advocate for it at all.
Yeah, and I think the reason why is because when someone searches luxury apartments near me or 2-bedroom apartments, St. Paul, we know as much as we can know, but I think it's safe to say basically 100% of those searches are people looking for a new apartment to move to. But if someone searches the so-and-so apartment building or the so-and-so apartment complex, we know that ratio is not 100%. It could be 3 out of 10 people searching for that competitor name are open to looking for a new apartment, and that's why they're searching for it, because they're looking for a new apartment. It could be 1 out of 10. It could be 0.2 out of 10. Yeah, like close to 0. And so, but it also could be 5. And that differs for different searches, but you also one positive that can come from that is potentially someone searching for a competitor luxury apartment building. Those cost per clicks for that competitor luxury apartment building might be cheaper than luxury apartments St. Paul, because they're lower quality keywords and there's less people advertising on them. So that lower cost potentially can make up for the fact that there's a lower ratio of people doing the search that are even open to what you're offering. But I agree with you, Chris. If you have a limited budget, spend it on the stuff where we know with certainty that the person doing the search is open to looking for what you offer. And that's pretty much how you judge it. One final thing I've added to this, thinking about competitors recently, it is so different industry by industry, Chris. Some, like, you have no chance when you show up on a competitor name of ever getting business, and sometimes you do. And so what I do is I put myself in the search user's shoes. Why would I be searching for a competitor luxury apartment building? Is it to pay my bill? Is it because something good, like I'm thinking about moving there? And then put yourself in the shoes, and why would you do that search yourself? And if you're open to something new, that would be the time where maybe you try some competitor ads if you have the budget.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. So I think we agree on that.
So, Chris, this next question comes from Piyush from India. And many, many years ago, I did not buy Titan stock, Chris.
Here we go. Of course.
But I do have a Titan watch, which I wear every day. So I have a lot of friends in India. And we have this question from Piyush from India. So, how to choose your first bids for manual bidding? So Piyush writes in, how do you determine the max CPC bid limit for manual bidding for a keyword when starting out a new campaign in a new account? So basically, if you want to run manual bids, how do you know what to set your bids at if you're starting out a new campaign in a new account?
Boy, this is a really common question. I actually have 2 different answers on this. First answer is going to be based on how fast you need to move on this and how much time. If you are very cautious and you have time to kind of just mess around and try some things, and you want to be very cautious and not waste any spend, this is a very thin margin, then in that case you should always spend less than you think. So if you're just throw a guess out there, typically a good guess is $3. Most industries can be within that $3 range, and you can probably get clicks. Now, if you're on a really tight margin, then take that and cut it in half, say $1.50. Okay, start there, and then start to bump up as you start to see, are you spending the full budget? Are you showing up? Stuff like that. If you're not, then keep bumping up from there and get more aggressive. Option 2 is this. If you are on a short timeline and you need to see if this is going to work, you're launching a Christmas campaign and it's like November 1st, and you don't have a whole lot of time to mess around. You need to get some data and start rolling through here. Then go heavier than you think. If start with that $3 bid and then double it. Start with a 6 and then pull things down. If you are overly aggressive, you're hitting top position like 70% of the time. Pull it down. So that's usually how I base things. And if you're neither one of those, you're not in a hurry, and it's also not super thin margin, then go with $3. I'm just going to throw a number out there, Jason. I mean, because people ask this question so much, it's so hard to say. Just throw $3 out. Most industries can get something for $3, and you'll know right away. If you listen to the show, you're going to hear a lot of information about metrics and things like that. You'll know if that's too high, that's too low. You'll know pretty fast.
Yeah, Chris, Sir Isaac Newton, he had his law of physics, and his third law of physics is that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction.
Thank you so much.
And if you put pressure on me, I'm running the opposite way, and you're never going to see me again in any aspect of my life. I don't do pressure. And if you don't have time to figure out your bid through maximize clicks running for 2 to 4 weeks, then I don't have time for you. I don't want to play games with $1 bids. I don't want to play games with $3 bids. I don't want to be the guy with an amazing opportunity running a mesothelioma account, and when the bids are going to need to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and then go from $1 to $2
to $2 to $3, yeah,
for 3 months, and then lose a client because we didn't get one click.
Yeah.
There is a way to do this, and that is to set your campaign to maximize clicks.
Okay.
Forget the limit. That's what I do. Forget the limit. Oh, should we click that limit button? No, you can't click it anymore. Moving on. Don't put the limit in place. Just put a budget, a daily budget that you're comfortable with. Let the system do its thing for 2 to 4 weeks. Don't pressure me. You'll get an equal and opposite reaction. I'll run away from you. You'll lose the best Google Ads manager on the planet. Because if you just give me 2 to 4 weeks, we'll know what the cost per click range is. We'll see where Google decides to bid us. We'll see what that comes in with the impression share loss due to ad rank. We'll see where that comes in with the absolute top percentage and top percentage columns. And we'll know where we're at with that cost per click. And then we can, in a very informed way, adjust the bids from there manually. I think it's a great 1-2 strategy. And if you don't know what your cost per click should be, I think it's a great place to start. That said, Chris, if you have some experience and a skill set, you can know that mesothelioma won't be $1. You can know that maybe the starting bid needs to be $50 on day one or $100. And so if you have some experience in that regard on different industries, you don't have to do the automated bidding, maximize clicks, because you can kind of know where you're at each day and go, oh, we bid $20. We lost out over 90% due to ad rank. I'm not going to bid $22. I'm going to bid $40. So you can know that if you have some experience. But if you don't, or it's a brand new industry, there's a beautiful strategy of maximize clicks and let it run for 2 to 4 weeks with a daily budget you're comfortable with. You'll get the most clicks possible for the budget. That's what the strategy lays out. And then you can get more nuance from there with manual bids. Hard to argue with that.
Yeah. After all these 333 episodes, we're not going opposite directions. We're not drifting apart. We're heading in the same direction, but we're just in different lanes now. So many years later, on some points we're together. We're in the same lane together.
That's fine, Chris. That's fine. You have to do what's good for you. Yeah. And I'm not leaving manual bids. I'm not leaving exact match. Of course I'm not. I have certain industries where I only run exact match and manual bids. I have certain industries where I run exact and phrase. But there's a lot of cases where I am realizing the environment that we all live in now, and I'm trying to grow in that regard as well. So, but listen to how boxed in I feel like maybe we were in the past. To think that it's controversial to run maximize clicks for 2 to 4 weeks with a daily budget you're comfortable with, what in the grand scheme of things, that's not so bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the most unautomated thing to do. You just turn it back to manual. You're getting some data. I think back in the day we had been pushed and kind of hit so hard with bad experiences with automated stuff that we just ran in the other direction, like Newton's third law. But then we ran into a brick wall because things are changing these days. But again, Chris, I have seen better performance, and I'll tell you this. in the past, I would set up maximize clicks and I would be unhappy with the performance. These days, I set up maximize clicks and I go, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. I know what to watch out for. I know that it could pick out some keywords in this campaign that I don't really think are going to get a lot of volume. Then all of a sudden they do. I know what to look for. But I think for this specific strategy or this situation, it's an amazing way to kind of know where you're at with the minimal amount of stress or making the wrong decision, trying to figure it out yourself early on.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to jump over to Leo from San Diego, California. He has a question here. Hi, Jason and Chris.
Hold on, Chris. Hold on. You ever been out to San Diego?
Oh, yes.
It's what
I did.
You have. Did you stay at the Hard Rock? That's my place.
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you go to the Gas Lamp District? Or sorry, the Gas Lamp
I was there
quarter?
working.
You blow some steam at night in the gas lamp quarter. You didn't go down there?
No.
Great restaurants, great bars, great nightlife.
No, I don't know where that is. I walked on that long pier. Is that San Diego? Yeah. I walked on that pier. I stayed right there.
It's a good time?
No, I was by myself. I was working. So I was doing some Google Ads stuff there, and
nice.
I didn't really have a great time. I mean, I was working.
Cool. Well, check out if we go back there for the Paid Search Podcast Conference 2023. Yeah, we'll do kind of an after the conference dinner at the Gas Lamp.
Yeah, I'll be just zooming in on that.
Okay.
I don't travel anymore. Jason and Chris, longtime listener of your show. Oliver and I listen on the drive to school/work. By the way, Oliver is missing the emphasized yes in the mornings. Jason, we all kind of,
I said hi to Jimmy. I said hi to Jimmy last week. I was sat around listening all day. He never said hi back. I don't know where he is. But if he comes out again, maybe we'll bring back Jimmy, bring back Roger. He's still back. Yes,
he's still alive. Like I'd kind of worry about him.
Yeah, I think
he's alive.
Yeah, sends me postcards.
Oh wow! Oh, so he's not here. Okay, interesting. All right, Leo continues. My question is about negative keyword match types. I have a client who wants to target whole house window replacements. We have the keyword exact match, average price to replace windows, which triggers two types of search terms. One is something like average cost of window replacement, and another one is cost to replace windows in house. Okay. We want to avoid people searching for a single window replacement. The ideal job is the whole house, the full house. What is the best way to block singular window replacement searches? My thoughts are to negative out with broad match window replacement, and he would love our expert opinion on the matter. Keep up the excellent work, guys. By far the best podcast on Google Ads on the planet.
So, Chris, this is a situation where it's kind of a B2B, B2C situation where we run into those where it's like maybe you're doing B2B. In this case, it's not B2B, but it's like you're doing the whole house. You want the whole house. But most of the searches are B2B aspect, or in this case, most of the searches, even though they're both B2C, are for possibly one window. So it's like the stuff you want is not that high volume. The stuff you're going to get that's high volume is not a lot of what you want, but some of what you want is kind of inside of that group of what you don't want. So I've got some ideas here, but generally, kind of how do you approach a situation like that?
Jason, I mean, I know our podcast here is about solving Google Ads issues, but I don't think this is a Google Ads issue. I don't think that you should let your client boss you around like this whenever the precision of what someone's looking for is the line is so thin that you can lose quality traffic so easily. My thought is, listen, I'm going to get you people calling you that want window replacements. I mean, if I see something that is explicit, like repair single broken window pane, or something like that, great, I'll block it. But
add the word single, add the word one as negative.
Yeah. But in no way would I go so far as to say just because they don't put a S on window replacement and don't say window replacements or Windows replacement,
Yeah.
something like that. No, I'm not going to block it. I don't advocate for it. In no way would I say that that's a good idea. This is a business issue that you need to solve, and go to the person's house, quote them, and then try and sell them 15 more windows as well. No, this isn't a Google Ads problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's you're trying to ask the Google Ads manager here to thread the needle a little too much to the point where there's no needle left, and you're just not going to get any traffic if you have the word
Yeah.
window as a negative. Because if someone has multiple windows that need to be replaced or repaired, they'll majority of the time they'll search window replacement San Diego, window replacement Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And a lot of time maybe they have one window, but a lot of times they'll have more windows. So some things you can do is just basically accept the situation you're in. And this is a situation where uh, people who have what you want, a whole house that needs windows, versus people who don't have what you want, one or two windows, they're going to be searching it the same exact way 97, 99% of the time. So you have cost per conversion, you have your numbers, and you just have to account for the fact that a lot of your conversions won't actually become jobs with with a better cost per conversion goal, and you just let the low quantity of conversions that actually will get through kind of adjust what you want to pay for your cost per conversion. One thing you can do is a couple more options. You can find the few searches people do that are perfect and ideal, like whole house window replacement. It's just not a natural search that a lot of people will do,
Yeah,
but
that's weird.
maybe some people will do it. So basically you target those as exact match, and then you need to find, I was going to say something else, but you need to find your courage. And you need to find your courage, and you need to bid those
Yeah.
aggressively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aggressively.
So when they do search, it's
You're
not that
there.
you're blocking the stuff that you don't think is good. When the positive does come out, boom, you're there. You have full coverage of those, and
You
then
don't
you're
even
just
want to know what I would bid on those. I would bid those so high
yeah,
because you have to, because they're going to be low volume. So you got to be there.
yeah.
One
That's a
final
good point.
idea, and this is kind of a nice thing about playing in the broad keyword space and the automated space these days is target those keywords you really like. You really like that probably no one's searching for or that often at all. Whole house window replacement. Throw them on as broad keywords, and then see what comes in the search terms report, and use the broad keyword campaign as kind of a research tool to find different search term ideas that can become keywords. That's another kind of usage for broad keywords, because maybe there's some ways people are searching for it that you don't even know, because just so an old house, so cost to replace windows in an old house would lend itself to someone that has a lot of window
That's
problems,
a good point.
and so maybe that's
Yeah.
multiple jobs. I would have never thought of old house unless I would have spent $1,000 running a campaign just for Leo, because I ran a bunch of broad match keywords, because I made all that money with Titan stock, Chris, back over the last 15 years in India. And when I'm not spending it going to the Transportation Museum of St. Paul in Minnesota,
St. Paul.
or
Yeah.
partying it up in the Gaslamp District quarter in San Diego, I'm spending
Yeah.
money for Leo on Google Ads. And you can get ideas like that by running broad match keyword. I have an idea here, Chris. Why don't you go tell your wife it's a horrible haircut and ask her to shave the whole thing off? And why don't you do that during our break? And we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back. I want to remind you about optio.com/PSP. They're currently running right now a 2-month free trial of their tool. And when you try their tool, you'll find things in your account that you never thought of before. Things it's going to alert you about pausing bad ads that aren't working, writing new ads to replace them, increasing keyword bids like 12%, because based on certain factors that they're looking at, adjusting location bids, negative keywords, pausing duplicate keywords. These are the kind of things that you can do at the push of a button. optio.com/PSP.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So next question comes from JT from Greenville, South Carolina. I've got cousin out in Greenville, so I'm out
Of
there
course.
every spring. I like to go out there when the weather's good, and I ride my bike on the Falls Park on the Reedy. It's like this big park, and we ride bikes out there. So
Yeah.
really enjoy that beautiful place.
Are
A
you
lot
are
of
you doing this because of JT's comment about what he says at the end of this message? This
uh
is that you're
no
just flexing.
no I
You're
have a
flexing on me because you're
there's
so
randomly
world
these
traveled.
I have a cousin out there, and we ride our bike on Falls Trip on the Reedy. Like it's a
I'm
really
impressed.
nice
I know
place. Yeah,
I know nothing about Greenville. I know nothing about South Carolina.
a very booming place, like booming.
Okay.
A lot
Well,
of big industrial
JT has some advice for me at
companies
the
out
end of the
there.
question. So we'll
Yeah.
yeah.
So JT says, "Hi guys. First, let me say I have picked up some invaluable tips and knowledge regarding Google Ads from listening to you for the past 2 years. Thank you, JT. So I have often played with your suggestions from SCAG setups, service to keyword ad groups, and the lazy man builds, etc. I was very excited and hopeful for establishing some Performance Max campaigns based on the last few episodes that you focus on Performance Max. However, after a 30-day sampling, that's not enough time. I have to say that Performance Max is syncing my account performances. Impressions are great, but a less than 2% click-through rate is not. This may be relative to the industry that I'm in, but I was hoping to hear you possibly address Performance Max again through the prism of particular industry segments, why it works great for some and not others. For now, I'm pumping the brakes on Performance Max, but hope to gain some insights from an upcoming episode. Thank you for all you do in making the topic of Google Ads palatable in the podcast format. Palatable.
Palatable.
I'm gonna reckon here. This is not a word, but
Palatable.
we're gonna search it right here.
Easily consumable. That's what he's referring to.
It's an adjective. A palatable local red wine, pleasant to taste,
Yeah.
acceptable or satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It's a
hey,
compliment.
you know that. Yeah, I'll take it. That's why we'll take it. That's why we're here. So we appreciate it, JT. So, P.S. Hoping someone can get Chris a world atlas for the holidays, but seriously, don't change a thing. Dang, that's very specific dig right there, Chris.
I saw that. I left that in. Just so you know, JT, I edit these
Yeah.
questions and I left
Yeah.
that in. I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty funny.
So yeah, for Performance Max, I've been running to this with some clients as well. Sometimes it's working great. Sometimes I'm getting feedback where they're saying it's not working so great. So first thing I would say is
Wait, you get to read the question and answer it?
when it comes to Performance Max, yeah.
Oh, you do.
Do you have Performance Max tattooed
No,
on you?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, well,
That's
I
fine.
do.
You're right.
Yeah. So 30 days is not enough, but at the same time, I would say this. There's specific settings inside of Performance Max and specific targeting options. And if you get those wrong, you're not going to be happy with the performance. So you have to know what you're doing with all the targeting, with all the settings. And then, yeah, I would give it more than 30 days if your settings and targeting are correct. One other thing here, Chris, is that when it comes to click-through rate and traditional Google Ads statistics, other than freaking conversions and freaking cost per conversion, you need to forget about it. Like, this is not a campaign where you need to focus on click-through rate. We're talking ads on Map. We're talking ads on YouTube. We're talking ads on Gmail. We're talking ads everywhere. And what the heck are the click-through rates going to be on those? Like, it's just a totally different thing. That said, Chris, Performance Max, since we talked about it about a month ago, any news on that with you, or are you still kind of looking into it a little bit?
It's still just another tool in the tool belt, but it's not my hammer. It's
Gotcha.
not my main tool. No. It's just it's an accessory for me still.
I'm trying to think of what tool it would be for me. Probably
should.
No, here's the thing. I'm not a tool guy.
Yeah, I mean, neither.
I'm not a tool in general. I'm a pretty good guy once you get to know me.
Yeah.
And I think I can get something out of you. But
yeah,
that's a joke, Chris. You're supposed to laugh at it because it's not true.
That's not a joke.
Did you see how much I cared about talking to you before the episode started today?
That's because you're exactly right. Because when we turned on the screen, we turned on the camera. Jason's like, "Oh, hi everyone."
Hey,
3 seconds before, he's like, "You ready to go? All right,
no,
let's
that's
go."
not true at all. We're exaggerating for the comedic effect here, um, Chris. But it's not a tool in my toolbox. It's me saying, "Oh, I don't have the right tool. I'm going to call in the professionals,
Yeah,
and they're going to come do something for me because that's what Performance Max is. I need this thing built. I don't have the tools to build it. Come build it for me. Come get me the cost per conversion I want. Come get me conversions." That's pretty much the reason you run Performance Max, because it's doing things that you can't do as a manager, whether you want to do automated or manual. It's like totally different things. It puts a bunch of things together. But his question here, Chris, working better for different industries than other industries. I would say yes, I have seen that. I've seen it work really well for some industries. I've seen it work not as well for different industries. I would say over time, it's only going to get better and better, because it'll get more data and kind of figure it out. But yeah, that's what I've seen so far with it.
yeah, yeah. JT, I think you're right on with that
Dude,
question.
Chris, why do you keep saying JT? Do you love that name? Did you know a JT?
I always address in the questions. I always like to address the people by their name. I'm a professional. I'm addressing the
There's
question. This
something
isn't to
about you and JT.
not talking to you.
Maybe it's that JT makes me think of JC, and JC makes me think of JC Chazé, and that's kind of who you look like, mixed
I
with
don't
a
know.
little Chael Sonnen.
Oh, is that soccer guy that you keep?
No, it's the guy from NSYNC.
Oh, oh
If
gosh.
if he had a baby with Chael Sonnen,
What?
and maybe Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore, that is you, Chris.
Okay, I
You
know
look
who the
like a
Situation
combination
is.
of Chael Sonnen, the Situation, and JC Chazé from NSYNC.
Okay. Well, I'll have to think about
You'll have to look it up.
who had to have a baby to make you. But let me answer JT's question. JT, I absolutely agree that there are some major missteps when it comes to some industries and some wins on others with Performance Max. I have been very unhappy. I mean, just to speak in generalities, I do not like Performance Max for business to business, B2B stuff. Not a fan of it. That's one thing. So yes, I do think in particular industry segments, particular types of things, depending on what you're going after, the Performance Max tool, I don't consider it to be a major strategy for me. It's just another tool in addition to other things that I might try. It's absolutely a no-go. It's a non-starter for me. I would go with other strategies in some industries. B2B is one, in particular, very small, specific types of things where you're looking for a very particular type of consumer traffic. Very very not very well known type of service or product. Where people may not be searching for it very much. Where Google doesn't really have any data on what that looks like, who needs to see it, those kind of things. I don't really like to do Performance Max campaigns for.
I will make a prediction about Performance Max, Chris. I did this a few years ago with Maps, and I said Google's just going to keep doubling down on Maps, and they're going to be a big factor here with Google Ads. I think Performance Max is here to stay. I think they throw a lot at the wall. They throw a lot of different names out there, brand a lot of different things, and kind of see what sticks. And I'm seeing it. It's either sticky or they're making it stick for us. But like, I see them being very serious about Performance Max and us talking about that 5-10 years from now. Like I think it's going to be around because I think it makes a lot of sense for them business wise to make the most use of all their assets. At the same time, if people can get it to work, I've seen it work really well, and it's a nice complement to just search. Like you could almost call search these days just search. Just search works really, really good. But a lot of advertisers, they do search and they're like, yeah, this works really, really good. I've got this other budget, maybe TV ads, stuff I don't like spending money on it. And if I could just get a little confidence to bring that over for the branding kind of social aspect of what's possible with Google Ads and YouTube, I think people are wanting to do it. So I think it's sticky. I think it's going to be around.
Yeah. Are we going to call it? Is that it?
Yeah, Chris, we're gonna leave it there. I was just thinking about how much of a good time I had today with you, and how much I'd like to travel with you, go around the country, go around the world,
I'm
and see
impressed.
some of these sites. Yeah.
I'm impressed with all the travel. I mean, Jason, I mean, other than like going snow skiing and to the beach, I mean, like, 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 I mean, I don't go anywhere else other than just like vacation stuff. I mean, it's just not something I do much of. So, yeah.
Well, start coming with me. Maybe we'll do some little paid search podcast conferences. Maybe we'll do some meetups, and we'll kind of do some business and pleasure, mix it all together with you, Chris.
Yeah. Like I said, I'll zoom into those. You can go.
Okay.
Go.
Well, it's an open invitation. Whether you want to ride bikes in Greenville, whether you want to go to museums in St. Paul, or whether you want to just party it up with me in the gas lamp quarter in San Diego, I'm here for you. We're here for you. We'll be here every week here on the Paid Search Podcast. Chris, you're at chrisschaefer.com. I'm at rothmanppc.com. Links are in the description. And again, send us your questions, paidsearchpodcast.com, and we will see you next week.